Hey there, everyone. It's me, Matt Skiba, famed lead singer of Alkaline Trio and Blink-182, and I'm here thankful that Dan and Jess from the Sadie Hawkins spot are having me on this episode. You know, life's pretty crazy up here in Chicago under the current pandemic situation, but yeah, I'm out there doing the podcast circuit, letting everyone know about the importance of alkaline water. And I guess today they'll be talking about, what's this song called? Let It All Out. So I really like that part with the ripping it out and letting it bleed. Sounds like some AK3 lyrics right there. But then I guess the rest of it might be about God, and you know, I don't care for that. I believe in the Lord and Savior Satan and his only begotten son Dracula.
And you said, I know that this will hurt, but if I don't break your heart, then things will just get worse. If the burden seems too much to bear, remember the end will justify the pain it took to get us. You said, I know that this will hurt.
Speaking of alkaline water, I need to turn our water bubbler or whatever, cooler, whatever you call this, off.
Okay.
Oh no, I'm dropping the cat.
Oh jeez, Jessica.
Sorry.
we have little plastic things up on top of the water cooler, and Jessica just knocked them all down. They're fine. We'll get them after the show.
I have my little placard that says "There's a great big beautiful tomorrow," based on one of the best Disney attractions of all time, Carousel of Progress.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a Mission Tiki drive-in tiki cup that just fell over.
Behind
it's cool
it.
though. It's plastic. It's fine. It'll be fine. Welcome to the podcast, April.
April's happy, excited too. Hey, April, join in.
Oh, we're all just gonna let it all out. Oh man, so I've decided that this is top of the show business.
Okay.
Very important. People are still using LiveJournal.
Oh.
So like, I'm not gonna go over it in my deep dive, but I did come across a LiveJournal post from this year called Take Me to Church Camp, Songs That Reconstruct Millennial Christian Memories. And there aren't any Relient K songs on this list, but somewhere in the 6 pages of comments that I did not feel like going through, someone mentioned Let It All Out, and that's why it popped up. There were a lot of people commenting Relient K on the main comments page, though.
Cool.
But yeah, apparently LiveJournal, still up and going, still a thing.
Well, good for you. Like Relient K, you know what else is still a thing, still up and going? Matt Thiessen, happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
We recording on Matt Thiessen's birthday, and we didn't even
Yes.
know it. And that's what we get for being a day late with this episode.
Yes.
So, happy birthday, Matt Thiessen. Yeah, we're talking about Let It All Out today. I'm trying to think if there's any other top of the show business that I had. But we do have some voicemails.
I was going to say.
So, let's go ahead and listen to those.
Hey, Danny and Jess, it's Connor, and I'm going to try to make sure I don't go over 3 minutes.
Okay, you guys can go over 3 minutes. I feel bad that we've
We're no
guilted
magnified
people.
pod.
I feel bad that we've guilted people. Please go over 3 minutes.
You can call up, and if the beep cuts you off, just hang up, call back again, and I'll edit them together. Plus, I edit down people's voicemails. I clean them up for pauses and ums all the time. We do that for ourselves.
Yeah.
So I'm like, why wouldn't I extend that service to our listeners, courtesy to our listeners? So, yeah, leaving 2 or 3
That's right. We don't
voicemails.
always sound this intelligent.
No. Or coherent.
Coherent. There you go.
I'll probably always call in after you talk about a Forgetting Not So Down song, so I guess y'all have that to look forward to, or dread, whichever one it is. But anyway, over it. First of all, I'd always just thought that instrument at the end was a cello and never gave it a second thought, but listening to y'all talk about it being a saxophone made me question everything I've ever known. So there's that. Learn something new every day. But yeah, so if we're talking about Over It in terms of the overall, like, story and where it fits in with everything else and, like, the big story that Forgetting Not So Down is, the timeline thing. And Jess, I think you totally nailed it when you mentioned, like, the stages of grief and everything. I think that this whole album touches on each of those, like, you know, those 5 stages of grief or whatever, whether it's, like, a breakup or something else. And we don't experience those in the order they're supposed to happen in or whatever, like, when we do experience those. But Over It, for me, is, like, that classic, like, coming down from the mountaintop experience that I feel like we've all had at some point. Like, the narrators, like, had this revelatory experience that we see during therapy, but now the full weight of everything is coming, like, crashing back down on him, and he's realizing he's not only lost something super important to him, but he's also lost who he is in the last few years, like you said in the first line of the song. So the way I see it, he's just totally over feeling this way and being in this headspace when he just had this mountaintop experience, which, in my opinion, is an experience with God, maybe the first real one in years, and so he decides to head out. Like, literally, the narrator leaves the cabin that he drove to in therapy, symbolized by the door closing at the end, and he steps into a metaphorical desert of loneliness, a Sahara, if you will. But yeah, this is like a transition song into, like, kind of the third act of the album, in a way, I guess. But yeah, I go into more detail on all of this in the stupid long email I sent you a couple weeks ago with my big headcanon timeline thing in it. But yeah, those are just my thoughts. Could be completely off base or just making stuff up or, like, looking into things that aren't there. But that's the conclusion I've come to after listening to this album way too many times. Anyway, yeah, enjoying the show, and I'll talk to you later.
So yeah, he did send us a super long email that I have, and it's got a star on it in Gmail. I just haven't gotten around to reading it and stuff. Which, by the way, on that topic, we're taking our first official break next week. Like, we haven't missed a week in over a year now. So, and it's summer, it's hot.
You are still, like, doing a little Matt Skiba there, like.
It's summer, it's hot. We want to go do summery things, whatever they do in Chicago, and we want to go
to the lake.
We want to go to the lake. We want to go to Wrigley Field or whatever, barring that there's a pandemic. Yeah, so next week we're taking a break, our first break in over a year. We're gonna post a Patreon episode for free, so it won't be like you actually miss us, except for our patrons who are gonna be ripped off next week.
We will put out an extra Patreon episode for the patrons,
right?
Just to
yes,
yeah.
But yeah, so that's our plan. It's our first week off. We're going to bank a couple episodes because it is summer. It's hot. I've got a lot of work going on. Like, after 4 or 5 months of working at home, like, things are kind of gearing up at work again. We're not fully going back to the office, but we're going into it more than we had been before. So
and they're moving entire buildings.
We're moving our building in the middle of the pandemic, so that's like a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
So anyway, who cares? Doesn't matter. Just letting you know. Next, and you know, the week that we did 500 Frenzy is Dead or Dying and May the Horse Be With You, that was a double episode week.
Yeah.
So technically, we're ahead of the game. And if we take next week off...
You've already gotten the content, okay?
Yeah, exactly.
It was just a few months early.
Right. So, there's that. And, what else? And next week we're doing... next time we're back, it'll be Seen and Heard. So give us your calls about Seen and Heard, because that'll be 2 weeks from today.
But yeah, I'm actually really excited to read what Connor had to say. I'm excited to read his thesis paper on Forgetting Not Slow Down, because yeah, it is totally just the stages of grief, and like he said, just not necessarily in the order, because you don't necessarily experience them in the exact order. But just yeah, I'm very interested to hear his thoughts on that.
And for first thing where he always thought it was a cello at the end, and we said it was a saxophone. I think it's two things came to mind. One is it's possible that it could be multiple instruments, because when we looked at, and I don't have them here anymore, the notes, the liner notes, liner notes from the vinyl, there's a person credited for playing multiple instruments. I think there might have been a cello, there was a saxophone, there was like a clarinet or something like that in Over It. So I'm wondering if it's a possibility if that do 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 do. I'm tone deaf. I'm not tone deaf because I can hear tones that I can't.
You're ready to go to Wrigley Field, Danny.
Yeah, I am. Dude. That thing at the end. What if, and this is just a theory, we can ask Mark Lee Townsend, what if there are actually multiple instruments sort of like harmoniously melded together into like a single sort of track? What if that is a saxophone and a clarinet and
it could be
bassoon
because of how like the mixing and the production worked on Forget Not Slow Down. There's so many layers,
especially when
there.
you look at Savannah and how many crazy like trash can lids being in that and stuff. So but it reminded me of when he said that. It reminded me of They Might Be Giants, and in the Tiny Toons episode that they were in.
Yeah.
There's a what song is it? Which it's not is it Particle Man? Or
oh my gosh, sorry. I'm just getting texts and my parents got a new dog.
Oh.
Sorry. Hold on. We'll be
That's
right.
Nice.
We'll be right back. Hold on.
Sorry about that. That was like crazy top of the show.
That was out of nowhere.
It was completely out of nowhere. Sadly, we lost. I think because we've recorded with him
April's
around
fine.
before. April's fine. But my parents lost one of their dogs, Louie, a couple months ago, and that was a tough time. But
right.
yeah, and so wow, they just got a new puppy, and they have. I swear, I've said it before. They have radar. We always get texts or calls from my parents while we're recording.
Right.
It's so funny.
Well, anyway, one of the Tiny Toons, They Might Be Giants music videos, it's Particle Man. The Particle Man Tiny Toons episode music video. They have a character, I think Hampton Pig, playing the accordion during the do 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 do. He's playing the accordion, but it's actually saxophone, I think, right? Oh. And if they put those Tiny Toons music videos as bonus features on the They Might Be Giants music video collection, and they did commentaries to those. They Might Be Giants did, right? And they were like so unimpressed and don't really care that they were on Tiny Toons because it really had nothing to do with them. It was like they were on a record label owned by Warner Brothers, and Tiny Toons is obviously Warner Brothers, so they just like did that thing. And they're like, they had so little to say about Tiny Toons on the whole, but they're like, it's funny they conflated the saxophone for an accordion.
That's funny.
So, yeah, it just makes me... And then, because then I, for years, thought that was an accordion in Particle Man. But no, it's a saxophone. So instruments can be mixed up in that way.
Yeah. So we just assume it's a saxophone. We could be completely wrong and off base there.
Yep. I'm like, why do we want to sit here and podcast when there's a new puppy to meet?
I know, right? Because we're already late.
So while we play this voicemail, let's run off to meet the puppy. We have another voicemail from Beatrice in Florida.
Hey, it's Beatrice from Florida again. I wanted to talk about two things. One about Let It All Out, and the other one was the thing about Debbie Ryan that you found in one of the TikToks. Basically, I don't know if you guys found out already, but like about a month and a half ago, there was this meme about Debbie Ryan, specifically when she was in the movie Radio Rebel, which was a DCOM, a Disney Channel original movie. I personally love that movie very much, but I haven't watched it like since it came out, so I really don't know much about it. But yeah, basically it was just like a meme because like she does like a lot of like weird facial expressions in the movie. So yeah. The other thing is about the song Let It All Out. The song, I think the lyrical content is like really good. Like I really like what the song says. It's really touching and stuff. Like Matt Thiessen like writes beautifully. I just love like that song like lyrically, but the music just makes me insanely uncomfortable because it reminds me of a time like this was like almost a year ago. Some of my friends, I'm not friends with them anymore, but like basically they all go to this one mega church here, and they just like were basically begging me to go with them. And it basically reminds me of that because when I went with them for the first time, and it was like the last time I went, I didn't want to go back. the music elements in this song sound so much like the stuff they played there, and like especially during that like intermission, like after like he sings like the chorus the second time, it's like the like pizzicato thing. That part I could just picture pastor screaming on the microphone, being like, "If anyone feels like God touched them today, come to the front." Random kid that I don't even know speaking in tongues in the back. Like, I just picture it. It's kind of like traumatizing because I was so scared that day because I've never experienced something like that in my life, and I just see a ton of teenagers just sobbing. So that's why I don't really listen to that song as much as I love the lyrics. It just brings me like this huge like bucket of emotions. Like, I don't even know how to explain it, but yeah, that's all I wanted to say. Bye.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That sounds like super overwhelming. Question, side note. Beatrice, you're from Orlando, right? Was it First Baptist? just throwing that out there. Just wondering. I don't know. I'm trying to think of Orlando mega churches.
Right.
But yeah, I have never been to a church like that before. So yeah, I think I'd be pretty freaked out about that.
That's funny that she said it kind of made her think of like modern worship sounding music, or the kind of music they would play
right
in a worship setting. Because I guess that gets us into the skipping the Deb. Did you have anything to say about the Debbie Ryan thing?
Oh! Thank you for letting us old folks know.
Right. I can't believe you're not up on your decon, Jess.
Right? I apologize.
Well, so leaving that in the past.
Thank you though, because that was very helpful. That was helpful knowledge. They have the current youths, they have Debbie Ryan, and we have Leave Britney Alone.
You have Leave Britney Alone.
Oh, right. You're a generation older than me.
Our 4 to 5 year difference. What would I have? I have Clarissa Explains It All.
Hey, I had decon too. I had Brink. I talk about Brink all the time on my show. I had
Suicide Machines are all over Brink.
It's good stuff. I had Smart House. I had Luck of the Irish. Had Alley Cat's Rule.
The Color of Friendship.
I missed Color of Friendship. Missed that one. But yeah.
Well, so
remember when NSYNC Bring in the Noise was in Smart House, and they did a whole little choreographed routine to it? That was fun.
Oh yeah, of course I remember that. I don't even know why you'd be asking.
I know he doesn't remember that. I know he's never seen Smart House.
Well, going to Beatrice's point, that can lead us into discussing the song, in that one of my first notes was that it's funny that musically this song reminds her of the kind of worship at that church where she was uncomfortable. Because one of my first thoughts was musically, this sounds like a modern praise and worship song, right? This in 2004, this sounds like the kind of praise and worship that they'd be playing in churches, in hip churches by 2010.
Right.
But lyrically, it's absolutely not a praise and worship song. Not to say that there isn't any praise or worshiping of the Lord going on in these lyrics. But when you talk about the genre of music called praise and worship, the lyrics in this song are far too abstract to be really considered part of the praise and worship genre.
Yeah, until I looked at the lyrics this week, I thought this was a song about a breakup. I thought that this was a song about a girl who's like, you said I know that this will hurt, but if I don't break your heart,
story of a girl,
things will just get worse. And I'm like, oh yeah, it's about a troubled relationship.
Right. I mean, this is so in the Relient K canon of song meanings where people are like debating if this is a religious song or not. And we've absolutely had songs that we've discussed on this show that are like, people are shoehorning a religious meaning into a clearly secular song about relationships. And we've seen the opposite of that, where people are trying to deny the spiritual aspects of a clearly Christian song. Here, you have a song that I think would clearly be about a relationship with the Lord and maybe like a struggle with sin or something along those lines. But the lyrics are so abstract overall that I feel like it's completely understandable to put any sort of meaning you want into a song like this. Last week, when we were talking about how we'd be doing this song, I said that, and nobody called me out on this on Twitter or anything, but I said that because this is not a song, and I'll get into it a little bit more, this is not a song that I like know super well until this week, basically. Now I know the song now I know the song about as well as I knew it in 2005, 2004. But for the last 10 plus years, this song has not been in my regular rotation, so I kind of forgot what it was about. Last week, I implied that this song had some sort of like theme or scent of self-harm, and clearly that was incorrect. What I remembered specifically is the very vivid and visceral, which I think is a metaphor of, tearing something out and not being afraid when it bleeds, and understanding that it's basically like removing a cancer or removing like some sort of tumor, but it's a metaphor for removing something bad from yourself, from your life, from your spirit, and the bleeding is the pain that it's caused. It's not literal blood.
No, this is when you said that last week, I was like, I don't know what he's talking about. I'm like, who are you? My mom, who was like, I don't like that Leona Lewis song Bleeding Love for the exact same reason, because she thought it was about self-harm. And I'm like, Mom, that's not what that song is about.
Right. But to my defense, I had maybe listened to this song twice before we did last week's episode over it, and I didn't have a chance to delve into these lyrics, and I'm like, oh, I'm an idiot. Of course this is not about self-harm. The sort of quote-unquote gory part at the beginning is a metaphor for dealing with a problem or a spiritual issue in your life and removing, I don't remember the actual Bible verse, but if your left hand causes you to sin, remove it with your right hand. I'm not a good Christian right now and not actually knowing that quote, but something along those lines, where clearly it's not a literal removing of flesh and a literal bleeding.
You're saying that it went bad, so we had to lob it off.
Yes, like Evil Dead.
Exactly.
Evil Dead is, in a way, the greatest Christian movie of all time. Evil Dead 2. Let me be sure. Evil Dead 2 is, in a way, the greatest Christian movie of all time. Evil Dead 1 is definitely not Christian. No, so I just kind of, after listening to it like maybe twice, because I was focusing on Over It last week, and I knew we were doing this song, and I'm like, let me listen to it a couple times, listen to it twice, did not, and I still don't really fully understand exactly what he's talking about, because it is very abstract, but, and I think we'll get into that if we look at song meanings.
In Over It or in this song?
Sorry, in this song.
Okay.
It's so abstract on what exactly he's dealing with. And I think when you look at song meanings postings, you see that nobody really knows what this song is about, but it is one of those kind of songs that is amorphous for whoever listens to it. Because I know that Meg on our Twitter, she said like she loves this song, and here you have Beatrice saying she loves these lyrics, and like I think this is a song that can fit like water, like Bruce Lee says, like this song be like water. Like this song can fit whatever mood it sort of matches up with. Like, so whatever sort of thing is going on in your life, which might be completely different from the next person in song meetings,
Right.
You might have completely different situations, but the song will fit perfectly. It reminds me of, and I don't remember what song it is, but there's some song that I think George or Ringo sings. It's on Beatles number 1. This is a sad story. But after my parents got divorced, Beatles number 1 had recently come out, and my mom was like, we went to Newbury Comics, and she was like, oh, I'm going to get Beatles number 1. And she bought Beatles number 1, and then we were playing it, and there was some song, maybe it was The Long and Winding Road or something, I can't remember, but she realized it was like there was some Beatles song that was one of their slower jams that she started crying because she's like, oh my God, this is about a breakup. This is about a divorce or something. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I don't remember which Beatles song it was, but maybe it wasn't about that, but the lyrics probably fit perfectly to her situation.
Yeah, that way.
So in a way, because this song is about dealing with pain and you know, like removing a problem from your life and the pain that it'll cause, this can kind of fit into multiple spiritual and non-spiritual situations. It is an amorphous, abstract song, and still to this day, you know, I've been studying this song for 2 weeks basically, and I don't really fully absolutely know what specific thing he's talking about. You know what I mean? Like when I hear "Come Right Out and Say It," I know exactly what kind of situation he's talking about. When I hear, can't think of any other good examples from podcasts recently, but there's certain songs, "My Way or the Highway." Like, I had no idea what that song was about when we went into it, and then in the end I realized, oh, it's about the Christian idea of the enemy tries to set you back from your faith. Like, right. I had a very clear understanding of what that was. By the end of studying these lyrics, I had no clear understanding, and I think that's what makes this song maybe genius, is that it is here and open to be interpreted to any person's particular situation, whether it's Christian-based or secular-based or romance-based or just like family problems. Like, I think this kind of song can speak to anyone. And going back to my first point, musically this is a praise and worship song, but it cannot fall in the praise and worship genre because lyrically it's way too abstract. It's praise and worship like pop music. It might be a glib comparison, but praise and worship, the genre, needs to have a very clear understanding of you're standing up and you're putting your hands up to this music, and the lyrics you're hearing connect you directly to your understanding of God. But because the lyrics in this song are so abstract, it's not. The comparison I said, this is like more like a prayer than a worship. The lyrics of this song are more like somebody praying through a difficult to comprehend problem they're having in their life, praying to God as opposed to worship. Because worship and prayer are absolutely intertwined, but they are also separate things. You know what I mean? Like, worship is about just laying yourself down and just giving yourself to God, like, just fully. You know what I mean? But prayer is a place where you come and you actually like talk through your problems with God and you ask for guidance, like specifically, like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah.
Absolutely.
So this song is more of a prayer than a meditation is my ultimate takeaway.
I don't feel like I can top that or really add anything to it, so...
Well, I have so many more notes. Is this going to be a Danny episode? A Danny-heavy episode?
I will say that I do quite like the outro to this song with that almost like clock ticking melody that it has there. Yeah, I like that. And then at the very end, there's throwback lyrics to High of 75.
That's so funny you mentioned that because someone on Genius noted that.
Yeah.
Did you still get the Genius?
No.
Or did you figure this out? So you're a genius.
When you touched my heavy heart
and made it light.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm kind of slowly, and you know what? I have something. So you mentioned the ticking clock. When you take mmhmm and you take 5 Score and Forget Not Slow Down, you have 3 basically perfect albums, right? Mm-hmm. And you can see the trajectory of how they were building on each other. But when you think of Forget Not Slow Down and mmhmm, you think, oh, those albums are so far apart, not just in time, but artistically. But as we're delving more into mmhmm songs and stuff, I'm starting to see proto ideas.
I was gonna say the same thing.
In mmhmm, that are actually building what they and Matt Thiessen will perfect in Forget Not Slow Down. This idea that you would have multiple phrases, as Daniel has left us in voicemails, like musical phrases that repeat within Forget Not Slow Down. And last week in Over It, we discovered that the words forget and slow down are in those
Right.
lyrics, but like really quick and sly, like you wouldn't even notice them. Here in this song, it's mmhmm, and you think, oh, pop punk album, you know, Hot Topic. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
some
yeah.
people would, like, people know this is a good album, but in the way of like an MXPX album or like a Green Day album, people think, oh, this is just a pop punk album.
Exactly,
But these
yeah.
bigger thematic ideas
Yeah.
already existed in mmhmm. Like, this was, it's not like Forget Not Slow Down, where Forget Not Slow Down is almost an opera. People think of mmhmm and they think, oh, this is just a collection of songs that they wrote between the last album and now. But no, there's actually an album, meaning like a cohesive idea. Like, these songs
Yeah, like
can
a
only
thread.
exist, a thread.
Yeah.
These songs can only exist with these songs. And what I think is, and I'm glad that we're doing them separately, that we didn't put them together and that we're actually doing them out of order. But here with Let It All Out and the song that precedes this, which to bury the hatchet are our heads.
Also the hatchet.
I'm sorry. I never get it. I kind of know I'm not going to get that right, so I purposely like mess it up as much as possible. But let me get the track listing really quick. So, okay. So how this song... Okay, so how Which to Bury, Us or the Hatchet leads directly into this song. I think like this is probably the lead up artistically that maybe Matt Thiessen or Relient K had to doing Deathbed. To have this, to eventually do Deathbed in the next album, and like a 10-minute song with multiple movements and things. Sorry, I'm moving some... I'm feeling animated. I'm feeling I'm about to really get going.
He's really talking
so I'm
with
moving
his
all the
hands over
glass
there.
to the left side of me.
Speaking of glassware, before we go any further,
Oh.
Danny, what am I drinking my Earl Grey tea out of?
You're drinking out of a Sadie Hawkins pod mug ordered at tpublic.com.
That's right.
tpublic.com / some sort of Sadie Hawkins pod URL. I don't know what the
We
direct link
tweeted
is.
it out.
We tweeted it out, and if you go to our Instagram, it's in a link in the bio.
Nice.
And I guess we should put it in the show notes too.
Probably.
Okay, we'll start doing that this week. So yeah, we have a Sadie Hawkins pod mug, and Jessica's drinking from it tonight. But anyway, so as I was like getting ready to, as I was really listening to this song, and I was like, oh, I really need to go back and listen to Which to Bury into Let It All Out a couple times. You know, I'd already listened to Let It All Out like a dozen times back to back. And I was like, I need to listen to the songs on both sides of it a little bit. And I realized Which to Bury into Let It All Out, it's almost like one little mini opera like Deathbed. And I'm wondering if, hypothetically speaking, were these songs that Matt Thiessen and Hoops and the band, maybe this was one song or one sort of like suite of songs that were intended to say Which to Bury, Us or the Hatchet into Let It All Out, and then that outro in Let It All Out, it's like multiple songs. It's like almost 4 or 5 songs contained within 2 songs. So I'm wondering if that really builds into the concept of Deathbed. Whereas Deathbed is a very tangible, clear story about one specific person with absolutely no real grounds for interpretation outside of possible symbolism. With Which to Bury and Let It All Out, it's a way more abstract lyrical story. Like, there's no specific persons or situations. It's amorphous, like I said, and fits to the listener as opposed to actually telling you a specific story. But I'm wondering if these 2 tracks possibly lead into each other. So Jessica's looking at me like, oh no. It gets deeper. I broke out the vinyl and I looked at the mmhmm vinyl, and when you have those breaks, those thick lines on the vinyl that tell you this is where a track starts.
Right.
There is no break on Let It All Out. Because
Yeah,
it just
one
goes,
just flows right into the other.
So on mmhmm, when you look at the grooves on the record, Which to Bury and Let It All Out is technically one track. It's maybe not one song, but it's one track. And then the outro, the ticking clock at the end of Let It All Out, has a break before it. Right? That feels kind of nuts to see that.
Yeah.
And especially because with Forget Not, Slow Down, and it's been one of the mysteries of our podcast is why are there these funny little breaks in the CD tracks? Why is Oasis separate from Savannah? Why is Baby separate from Savannah? Why is there an outro? Why is This Is the End If You Want It split into 2 tracks when it's clearly one song? I'm like, was this possibly the build up to that? Like, did Matt Thiessen maybe want the outro to Let It All Out be a separate track? And somehow in the sequencing meetings, they decided against it. But mechanically, in the record, it kind of like let it be what it was supposed to be.
Right.
That's my question.
Yeah.
And then it gets a little deeper.
Someone pick this guy up for another music podcast. He needs like a proper music knowledge host to bounce off of.
I mean, I guess, Daniel, you can see my
You're
socks.
a rock star, Danny.
Well, I can only talk about... No, please. I can only talk about... like... I don't know. What would you call it? See? I don't know. You throw me off. I can only talk about, like, lyrics and form and stuff. I can't talk about... And theory. I can't talk...
I mean, not music theory.
Not music theory. I can only talk about, like, theories of lyrics and stuff. I can't talk about keys and...
But you can talk about pop music.
Mm-hmm. That's what we're doing. Who sings that song? I know the Busters ska version. Talk about ska music.
Nice.
The Busters are a German ska band.
It's good stuff.
So anyway, all of that. And then...
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to derail you.
No, that's okay. So let me look at my notes. So this song is a prayer, but not really worship. Too abstract for worship. Oh, I wanted to say, and this melody. So I touched on this a little bit, but especially being like a giant Relient K fan with the first 4 albums, and then sort of like resting and just kind of being like a typical Relient, an on par Relient K fan with 5 Score and After. When mmhmm came out, I listened to it back to back all the time, right? Mm-hmm. But if I was going to skip any song, kind of like Over It, this is the theme of this 2 weeks, this is the song I would skip. Because as far as a mood, it didn't fully speak to me, right? And I completely understand people like Beatrice and Meg who say the lyrics speak to them, and people on song meetings. But I don't know, whatever, and it's maybe because it's too abstract and I couldn't pinpoint exactly what it was saying about forgiveness and sin and regret. I couldn't really peg it.
Yeah.
It never fully spoke to me lyrically. So as far as like slower, more melodic songs, it was one that was easy for me to skip. However, I feel like this is absolutely one of the purest examples of Thiessen melody. Like, if someone asked me, like, what is a Matt Thiessen song, what is a Relient K song, in a way, I feel like I'd want to give them this song. You know, if the person said no judgments, like, don't worry about whether I'm going to like it or not, just give me a song that is pure, what to you feels like a Matt Thiessen melody, this is the song.
Interesting.
Let it all, like that, like this, especially when you think of any band.
I can see what you're saying.
When you think of any band, like Green Day, Rage Against the Machine, like they have a sound, like one particular key or one particular phrasing that they just use over and over again, but they kind of like twist it a little bit with every song. This is like the pinnacle of, especially up to these first 4 albums, this is like Matt Thiessen perfecting the melody that's kind of in his DNA. Like, this is the quintessential Matt Thiessen melody as far as I'm concerned. Whether or not you can connect to the lyrics, the melody in this song is the quintessential Matt Thiessen melody. Even though I wouldn't consider myself the biggest fan of the song. I'm definitely more of a fan of this song this week than I have been in the last 12 years. But yeah.
Yeah, this is a song that kind of, it has to strike me in the right mood to listen to it. Like,
Right.
It wasn't always a skip song. I do enjoy it. Like, Danny was like, "Oh, see, you do like this song. You're singing along to it," when we put on the record earlier.
Right.
And I was like, "Yeah."
I was kind of shocked because I was like, we got to do an mmhmm song. Part of the reason we picked this week is, we got to get back to mmhmm. We haven't done it in like 2 months. And I was like, let's do a slower song because we tend to pick the higher pace song, the faster songs.
Right.
And if we keep just picking the upbeat, faster songs, then by the end, in 2 years, when this podcast is done, we'll just have nothing but slow jams left. So I said, we got to do Let It All Out this week. So, and Jessica was like, oh, okay. But what I'm realizing now is Jessica's sigh 2 weeks ago when we picked this song was more like doing a slower, sadder song, not that she didn't like this song.
Right.
Clearly you do like this song because you know the lyrics and you were singing along to it on the couch playing PS4.
Playing NHL 20 because that's the only place where my hopes and dreams of the Leafs winning the Stanley Cup can stay alive.
Right.
Yeah, no, I do like this song when I'm in the mood for a slower song. And it's because, Danny knows that I often will skip slower songs
Right.
on albums. He knows that I am one to do that.
Right.
I've definitely said probably on this podcast before that I absolutely tend to skip slow songs because it's why I'm more of an NSYNC girl than a Backstreet girl, because NSYNC has more fast songs. Come on.
Right. In many ways, NSYNC is the original pop punk band. I don't know what I'm saying.
So yeah, but no, I do like this when I'm in the mood for a slower song, and sometimes I would listen to mmhmm all the way through when it first came out, and so yeah, I do know the song.
Yeah.
There were some lyrics that I never really interpreted or really heard properly, and so it was the first time I really sat and looked at the lyrics. And yeah, like I said, I always thought, because it is so abstract, that it was a breakup song. Like, it's about getting out of or over a toxic relationship.
Especially that lyric, the true, shoot. I cannot remember the lyric now. But the pain will justify the...
Yeah, in the end...
I need the lyrics
thrown
up.
me off now.
The end will justify the pain it took to get us there.
Right.
You said, I know that this will hurt, but if I don't break your heart, things will just get worse. And so from the whole, if I don't break your heart, things will just get worse.
Yeah.
It makes me think of, like, gotta be cruel to be kind. And,
Right.
that sort of idea.
You got to be cruel to be kind.
Like, you have to, as a relationship has to end in order for a new beginning to happen.
And that's what happened with us. Because I was a bad boyfriend to you the first time, and you had to break up with me, and we had to...
Still a bad boyfriend. Okay. Also, I did not mean to rag on First Baptist in Orlando earlier. Apologies if it sounded like that. I had a friend who went to First Academy. It's cool. It's all good.
Controversy.
So there.
So,
I was just thinking of Orlando mega churches.
Right. I don't know what Status, if they're even around anymore. What was that? I know, because
Yeah, Status was the...
Status was the big youth-oriented, not mega church, but super church in Orlando when we lived there. And but they were like inside of another church. You know what I mean? Like the church building
Right.
was called something else. And I don't even know if Status is there anymore because it's been 8 years since we lived in Orlando last.
Yeah, living in Celebration and having grown up like Presbyterian and Methodist, we went to Community Presbyterian Church in Celebration.
Right. I think Status was called, I think they were in the Discovery Church building,
Okay.
but who knows if they're, again, like churches open and close. I don't know.
Yeah.
So, Orlando people, Beatrice, let us know. Any other Orlando listeners, let us know. What's still going on over there? Is Full Sail still slowly taking over every building
I think it
around their
is.
block, just buying up everything?
I have a friend / my producing partner who she oddly also went to Full Sail, but we met out here, and she's from all her family still lives, like they lived like in the Full Sail area, like so like she goes back, and like she's always like, Nana says that like Full Sail's evil because they just keep expanding and things like that. It's really funny.
Four Rivers. I mean, we technically can't have that anymore because we're vegan now. But man, I can't believe
Stardust Video, which is no longer video.
Yeah, I can't believe I didn't go to Four Rivers during college. It was right there, and then it wasn't until we moved.
It was there.
No, it was there, but
it
it was a tiny little stand.
Oh, it just expanded.
And it expanded into the bigger building that we knew when we were married. Because refresher for anyone who doesn't know, but we lived in Orlando for college. We moved away, we got married, and we moved back to Orlando for a year and a half.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, that's Orlando talk with Dan and Jess. So, about the vinyl and mmhmm 10.
Right.
This song also leads into two different songs, depending on what version of mmhmm that you're listening to. So on the original CD pressing and the original streaming version, when you finish listening to Let It All Out, it goes directly into Who I Am, Hate Who I've Been. And that is a version that a lot of people have probably heard, to have heard this like musically worship song, but lyrically a prayer song. Real slow, real contemplative, real sweet and slow. And then da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, like into Who I Am, Hate Who I've Been, right? It's just like, it's almost like this chapter has ended and now we're into a new chapter. Who I Am, Hate Who I've Been. And that's, if you've had the CD your whole life, then that's the way you've heard it. And if you've listened to mmhmm on streaming, that's the way you've heard it. But
it starts out a little slow.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, are we both tone deaf? Wow, I can't do it.
You're not
either.
as tone deaf as me, but maybe it's catching.
I'm tired.
So
it's been a long week.
Spotify. Oh, it starts right up. Yeah, it starts right up.
It's been a long week.
But when you listen to this song on mmhmm 10, the 10th anniversary version on streaming, or any vinyl copy, and I figured this out recently. I absolutely didn't. I'm not going to be like, I always knew this. I had no idea. But studying Discogs and looking at every existing vinyl version of mmhmm, Apathetic Way to Be, and like we'll talk about this when we do Apathetic Way to Be. Apathetic,
such a good song.
Yeah, like we're saving that for a little bit because we'll do it sooner than later. But we both love that song. On the vinyl, on any vinyl version, I don't think this is not related to mmhmm 10. Any vinyl version, even from 2004, has Apathetic Way to Be between Let It All Out and Who I Am, Hate Who I've Been. I don't know what the deal is there. Like, when they made this album and they had those sequencing meetings, did they say to themselves, oh, Apathetic Way to Be comes after Let It All Out, and that's the way it was meant to be? But then they had another meeting and they're like, oh, we really need an EP to promote this album, and Apathetic Way to Be is like the perfect song to basically lead an EP, you know? And did they lift Apathetic Way to Be out of the track listing for the CD and put it on the EP, but left it in the vinyl track listing to sort of like hint at that original? Honestly, like it's so weird because I had no idea. You know how I figured this out is because I was trying to figure out if mmhmm 10 was ever on CD, and then Brady called us and said yes, it was on CD. I own the CD. And then I looked on Discogs and it's real under the radar. It's not called the mmhmm 10 CD. It's just a special CD that you got if you ordered the 10th anniversary version of mmhmm on vinyl, which was not called mmhmm 10.
Gotcha.
It was just the 10th anniversary repressing of mmhmm, and it was just called mmhmm. It was just called mmhmm. There's no vinyl with mmhmm 10 on the cover.
Interesting.
Okay? Right. So the vinyl that was pressed in 2004 had Apathetic Way to Be after Let It All Out. Now, conspiracy Danny, when you listen to mmhmm 10 on Spotify, you can tell that all they did was take the track out of the EP, because you hear the ending chord of The Truth at the beginning of Apathetic Way to Be on mmhmm 10. Do you get what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like, because when you listen to the because when you listen to the Apathetic EP, it starts with The Truth, and The Truth blends perfectly into Apathetic Way to Be. But instead of like specially phasing out Apathetic Way to Be for mmhmm 10, they basically just lifted the track up, so you still hear that fade out from The Truth. But I could hear and it doesn't exist as far as I know. I could be wrong, but I couldn't find it it's not on Spotify for sure. You could have faded Let It All Out and that that ticking talk ending
Right.
into that fade in of Apathetic Way to Be. They could have done that extra little bit to sort of fade those songs into each other. But instead, they just lifted Apathetic Way to Be out of the EP and dropped it into mmhmm 10. And so when you listen to Let It All Out directly into Apathetic Way to Be, there's a little cut. There's a little cut, and then you hear the last chord of The Truth, and then Apathetic Way to Be begins. I say all this because, as far as sequencing goes, going from Let It All Out into Apathetic Way to Be is far more dramatic. Mm-hmm. Because Apathetic Way to Be is an upbeat rockin' number that starts with a slow contemplative chord, right? It starts with that like sort of like slow chord, and then that like purposefully badly compressed drum beat. That dramatically badly compressed drum beat that leads into, and then the song kicks in. Apathetic Way to Be kicks in. So I'm even wondering if there's an even deeper conspiracy here. If basically Thiessen possibly wrote a trilogy of like songs, like a suite of 3 songs,
right,
called Witch to Bury, Us or the Hatchet, Let It All Out, and Apathetic Way to Be. And this was a trilogy that was directly supposed to all flow together. Now, I haven't studied the lyrics between these 3, and I guess we can get into that more when we do Witch to Bury and Apathetic. But I don't know. I'm just like total tinfoil hat. I'm wondering if this was the idea. And then if ultimately when they had a band, they had like a band and management meeting, and they were like, we need an EP. Apathetic Way to Be is the perfect song to like be the single.
Yeah.
It wasn't a single for mmhmm, but it was like a perfect EP song.
Mm-hmm.
So they're like, well, let's lift Apathetic Way to Be out of there. Let's fade it into The Truth. Maybe they had said, oh, The Truth is a cool song, but it doesn't belong on the track listing of mmhmm. And they like, well, The Truth is cool, but let's get a B+ song out of mmhmm and help The Truth sort of have a better like extra little song there on the EP. This is what I'm this is what I'm thinking. Do I sound absolutely crazy?
No, I don't think so at all. Especially, I can definitely hear since we listened to the vinyl earlier, the Witch to Bury into this song as being one song. I absolutely hear that.
Especially because there's no break. On the vinyl, there's no break.
Yeah, and listening to Forget Not Slow Down so much, I'm like, oh, 100%. This feels like what they're doing with, so mmany songs on that album where just one thing goes into the other, like sort of like this is the end if you want it or whatever, like I totally agree.
Yeah, and that ticking clock outro, I wonder if it was just like in Thiessen's mind, and this is not a Capitol Records thing because mmhmm was recorded for Goatee.
Yeah.
But I just wonder if like there was slightly more like Thiessen had this crazy idea where we split up tracks by CD track number, and we take that ticking clock outro and we put it on its own track. And everyone was like, what are you talking about? It's just part of the same song. We just put it on one track. And then no one understood. And 2-3 records later, depending on how you see Bird and the B-Sides, on Forget Not Slow Down, Thiessen's like, no, you guys wouldn't let me do it on mmhmm. You wouldn't let me put the ticking clock outro on its own separate track. This time I'm going crazy with the separate tracks, and I have a very specific idea for the sequencing on this album. That's the question that we ultimately need to try to ask someone, and Schneck didn't seem to know when we interviewed him. Who decided on the sequencing of Forget Not Slow Down?
Right.
And was this stuff that I'm total tinfoil hat imagining around these three songs, Which to Bury, Let It Go, or Let It All Out, sorry. This is not a Rancid podcast.
Oh, my head went to Frozen.
Oh, Let It Go? Oh, yeah, you're right. No. Let Go is the Rancid song, sorry. Let Go is the Rancid album. Anyway. Yeah. I feel like I've said enough on all that.
So before we go into deep dive or anything else, John Davis from Superdrag provides additional vocals on this song as well as When I Go Down.
Right. Full on, like, and it's not like all those little Matt Hoops singing lead things where you're like, is this Thiessen? You know?
Right, you can definitely tell.
You have to know this is not Thiessen singing. This is not anyone in the band singing. John Davis, lead singer of Superdrag, and this is being lost in time, but I want this to be known. John Davis of Superdrag basically was a supertone in 2005. This is the craziest FNS in the world, but it's being lost to time because there's not magazine articles about the supertones. There's no books about the supertones, and like wherever these tours were posted online in 2005, think of 2005 internet. These aren't existing today. But it's okay. I posted them on my MySpace page. Oh no. So, John Davis is credited on what was originally the last Supertones album, Revenge of the Supertones. He's like on one track. And there's one other song that Mojo from the Supertones wrote about John Davis from Superdrag. Because John Davis became Christian at some point. And I think that's the reason why Superdrag initially broke up, was because he didn't want to do Superdrag now that he was a Christian. And he actually like full on went into the Christian music industry.
Right.
Like how many other like full secular artists said, I'm Christian, I'm going full tilt into the I'm sure it's happened, but like who? Like what? Stephen Baldwin had like
making such a face.
Well, I'm thinking Stephen Baldwin had a stupid album at one point, but that can't count. You know what I mean? Like I'm thinking like actual like secular rock artists who were on MTV, became born again, and went into the Christian music industry. Because John Davis had his solo album in the Christian that was like sold at Christian bookstores. He was on Revenge of the Supertones, and I saw John Davis' solo performance. It was so weird. I saw it at Cornerstone, Florida, the first day that I didn't take you to, because Jessica and that Relient K played at.
Right.
Jessica and I went to Cornerstone, Florida, 2005, and I went both.
It would have been six.
I went both days. And Relient K played the first day. Jessica couldn't make it that day. I purposefully skipped class because I was like totally burnt out on school. And I'm like, I'm going to Cornerstone, Florida. I don't care about anything else.
And I'm a Hufflepuff, so I would not skip class. So
Jessica went on the second day with me where we saw Crowder. We saw Family Force 5.
Rocket Summer.
But I saw Project 86 and Relient K and John Davis on the first day. And I was like, this is so weird. And I think I have a picture with me and John Davis because he was wearing an orange Husker Du shirt. And so, but the year before that, 2005, I got to see the Supertones play their original farewell. Well, they really only ever had one farewell tour, because when they broke up this last time, they just did one big show in Orange County that we went to. But when they broke up the first time, they did a whole tour. And I got to see it twice, because I saw it once in Massachusetts before I left for college. And I saw it a second time, not in Gainesville, but near Gainesville, after I'd started Full Sail in Florida, in Orlando. And John Davis was there. and he was playing keyboards for that whole tour. John Davis went on tour with the Supertones and played keyboards for that tour. And then when he didn't have a keyboard song, he would just get up and dance. Like he was the dancing guy from the Mighty Mighty Boss Tones.
Nice. Do you know how you can tell which lyrics he sings versus Thiessen?
How?
Because he's like, let it all out.
He's like, who let it out? The feeling. Who let it out? The feeling.
Exactly.
Classic. Well, I loved Sucked Out. And whenever the song Sucked Out by Superdrag, although I never owned that album, I think I had a single or something, or I taped it off the radio. I taped it off the radio. And I loved that song.
Gosh, you're so old.
I know. But whenever I think, and this is a real who cares, but I'm on a trip right now of just being nostalgic and thinking of it. Whenever I think of Sucked Out, the single by Superdrag, their big radio hit in the 90s, I think of Strawberry's Music in Burlington, Massachusetts, which was a very short-lived record store. Strawberry's Music was basically a northeastern record store chain, you know, in contest with like Newbury Comics. But they opened one store in Burlington that only lasted a couple years. And for some reason, whenever I think of Superdrag Sucked Out, I always think of that store. And that store only existed for like a year. Who gives it? Who cares?
I care, Dan.
You care.
So, before we get into the deep dive, let's go ahead and take our break.
If you'd like to interact with Sadie Hawkins Pod, please do. We have a voicemail line, which is 402-95-SADIE.
You can also send us an email at sadiehawkinspod@gmail.com.
And check out our Twitter and Instagram, which are both at Sadie Hawkins Pod.
We'd also like to take this moment to thank our patrons who have signed up at patreon.com/sadiehawkinspod.
We've got Brady, David, Tucker, This Might Be a Podcast, Owen, Jimmy Eat Pod, Roxanne, and Samantha.
If you'd like to join our Patreon, we're discussing most of the K is for Karaoke tracks, like Justin Bieber's Baby and Cake's The Distance. We've done some random stuff, like a video of us playing Animal Crossing and discussing our summertime playlists.
Oh, and we're reading through the entirety of the Relient K related book, Complex Infrastructure, known as The Female Mind. And hey, if you thought there wasn't a Relient K book that makes a short bus joke, well, sign up and learn how wrong you were.
There are $2, $5, and $10 levels where you can get those bonus apps and extras like merch.
And if you have a special someone in your life, think of giving them the gift of Sadie Hawkins Pod.
And we're back. This song was used in an episode of the show What About Brian, Season 2, Episode 16, What About Strange Bedfellows from March 5th, 2007.
You don't have to make up facts, Jessica. You don't have to make up fake TV shows that never existed.
Right?
What is it called?
What About Brian?
Is that in relation to What About Bob?
I don't know.
What about... Yeah, see, because What About Brian? When I type in What About on IMDb, here's what comes up first. What About Bob? What About Dick? What About Love? What I Like About You? What About Brian? It's the 5th in the list. 27 episodes. Wow. 2006 to 2007. There it is. From the producers of Lost and Alias.
Yeah, I saw
What About
that.
Brian? The complete series. From the producers of Lost and Alias, which must be J.J. Abrams, and the screenwriter of City of Angels and For Love of the Game comes a contemporary, heartwarming ensemble show about a group of supportive friends in various stages of romantic relationships and friendships living in Los Angeles. They are the just married... Oh my gosh, this is huge!
This sounds like it's just going to be right on par with Lost and Alias.
Yeah, right? Jessica, look how big this
Oh my
IMDb
gosh.
Yeah, I'm not reading this. This is hundreds of words. Interesting. Well, we can buy the whole
Who
series.
does it star?
Brian Watson, Matthew Davis. Do you think he's related to John Davis? Rick Gomez, Rosanna Arquette. That's the first person I know.
Oh, Matthew Davis is from, he's in, well, now
he's in
a bunch
Legally
of Hallmark
Blonde.
movies, but yeah,
He
he's
was
in
on
Legally
Blue Crush.
Blonde, and he was in
He was in
Vampire Diaries.
Of course, and he was in S. Darko.
Oh, that's right.
Beloved sequel, S. Darko. Interesting. And now I'm going to put this in my IMDb watch list.
Nice.
We can buy the whole series on Prime Video for $10.
And listen to this song in season 2, episode 16. We have some misheard lyrics from miright.com. Unfortunately, no parodies.
Aw, I have a parody.
Okay.
I forgot how it goes.
I have one too. I was singing it to April earlier.
Okay, you sing yours while I try to remember mine.
April's a nerd, April's a nerd, April's a little nerd.
That's not a good parody. No one's going to know what that's in relation to. Oh, I remember my parody. Okay, ready? And Bane said, I know that this will hurt, but if I don't break your back, Gotham will just get worse.
That's right, I forgot about this one.
Except then it turns out he just wants to blow up Gotham.
Well, is that really worse? So, let it all out. Misheard lyrics. And I'll try my best to just forget that the fat man isn't me.
Fat Man, I just referenced Batman.
Original lyrics. And I'll try my best to just forget that that man isn't me.
Right.
Then there's, and I'll try my best to just forget why is it the fat man? Oh, I'm sorry. This one is, and I'll try my best to just forget the fat man isn't me.
Fat Man is my favorite Big D and the Kids Table song.
Oh. And you said, I know that this will hurt. Butterfly, don't break your heart.
They don't. No, butterflies can break your heart because they're so beautiful.
I don't believe this one. This one feels more like a parody. Let it all out, get it all out, poop it all out, remove it.
Oh, no.
Did you submit that one, Danny?
Yeah, did I submit? Because when I'm bored and just sitting around, and if we're listening to the radio in the car or listening to a record in the house, I'll just be like changing the lyrics to be about poop. It's real awful, and I would never do it publicly.
This song made number 44 on EarnThis.net's top 50 Relient K songs. They say, though a bit inert during its first half, Let It All Out builds to a therapeutic, powerful climax, plus a harmonica-infused coda. It was the band's first attempt to capture the post-breakup emotional ache, which they would spend an entire album contemplating 5 years later. Okay, so they also read into it the whole breakup thing.
Yeah. It kind of reminds me of, now that I'm thinking of it, like Marigold. Because Marigold was a song that I think is, yes, about God's love, but also about parental love and romantic love. I think it's about all kinds of love. So it's kind of, here you have a song that is probably only about one kind of love, but that kind of love can change from listener to listener. Yeah.
So we have, I don't know if I've read this one or not, but a review from punknews.org for the album mmhmm.
Okay.
As derivative as it is, Relient K is symmetrically...
Sorry, we know this isn't written by Greg Simpson of This Might Be a Podcast, because we talked to him about that.
Yeah.
He never wrote a Relient K review. Who is this? Did you see?
Brian Schultz, 2 stars.
Okay.
As derivative as it is, Relient K's symmetrically titled mmhmm is still a mostly solid batch of major label pop punk, if there ever was such a thing, and is a fair accomplishment for a 14-track/50-minute effort of the genre, creative enough to hold its own. It's a wonder to see how a band can put out annual offerings like they do and avoid filler, but the band's 4th proper full-length manages it for the most part, never getting too poppy or whiny, and is helped by crisp, if not questionable, production. This is like a walking contradiction, I feel like. The band...
You're referencing Green Day there, right?
No.
No? Okay.
The band does a lot of things. I mean, yes, Danny, I absolutely was. The band does a lot of little things that either work in favor of themselves or unintentionally disgust the listener. The only thing worse than beating a dead horse is betting on one is a fitful minute of Lagwagon-inspired skate punk, complete with an acoustic strum bridge and a hyperactively sung verses. And its preceding track, I So Hate Consequences, is a ridiculously catchy number. The small bit of screaming in the latter is a bit tasteless, however. More Than Useless contains a minute synthesizer lick a la Newfound Glory's Failure Not Flattering, and without prior knowledge of Relient K's past material just seems like silly tryouts at throwing in details from the latest trends. Still, any said usage of the band's partakes in is rare and seems forced from above power. April's like, enough with this. The banjo use in Witch to Bury, Us or the Hatchet, also containing a dose of background screams, pretty much kills the relatively serious mood the song attempts to convey.
I don't hear anything that says 2 out of 5. Was it 2 out of 4 or 2 out of 5? Either way, I don't hear anything that justifies 2 stars.
Let It All Out and When I Go Down are pretty much throwaway ballads. In continuation of the band's last effort besides the Christmas album, Two Lefts Don't Make a Right, the lyrics abandon a lot of blatant Christian content in favor of massed values and morals, not to mention significantly lessening the cheese factor. High of 75 is probably the worst the band gets, but now I'm sunny with a high of 75 since you took my heavy heart and made it light. Or and
just the lyrics are bad?
And the temperature is freezing, and then after dark there's a cold front sweeping and over my heart. Still, it's nothing nearly as eye-rolling as Marilyn Manson eating your girlfriend.
Well, we can all agree with that. Patreon episode, Marilyn Manson Ate My Girlfriend's Song Meanings, coming out tomorrow.
For the band themselves, it seems like a landmark effort. They've managed to slowly mature over the years, lyrically anyway, but it especially shows this time around. The sugary choruses here sound pretty similar, and it's nothing new but by a long shot. But is a moderately enjoyable effort, as opposed to now how irritating some of their contemporaries can be.
Contemporaries such as...
Lagwagon and Newfound Glory. Yeah. So thank you, Brian Schultz.
That sounds like a
punknews.org.
That sounds like a 3-star review, not a 2-star review. That's so strange.
Yeah.
Punk News is nothing if inconsistent. I mean, because anyone can write for them.
Right.
I feel like you get some consistency with the staff writers, but when it comes to the larger picture, especially when you look at it over a decade, over 2 decades, over however many decades.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then we have a Wattpad fanfic, which we talked about a little in Boomerang, probably, because it's called Boomerang, but this chapter is called Let It All Out.
Okay. Are you going to read it?
By Chasing Rainbows Alone. I'm just going to read just a minute of it. It's very short, though. Aisha's point of view. I stared at Matt in disbelief. It is Matthew from when I was younger. I noticed that his hair was slightly long and curly. Mom left to go tend to my brother. Matt turned and we made eye contact. He smiled. It is you, I said quietly. Yep, Matt replied as he put his arms around my waist. It's me. Butterflies were doing 360s in my stomach as Matt pulled me close, so I had to put my arms around his neck. I was cut off when he kissed me, and I tried to pull away, but he wouldn't let me. I kissed him back. Aisha, your brother. I broke away from Matt and we stared at my mom. She had a shocked expression on her face. My face was on fire. What were you saying about Adam? I asked. Mom's shocked expression faded and she said, Adam wants to see both of you up in his room. Now, if you want to know what happens next, Boomerang, a Relient K. I wonder if Chasing Rainbows Alone listens to this podcast.
Well, if they do, I hope they're not chasing rainbows alone anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. And then finally, we have a photo inspired by this song. There's I'm gonna butcher this name. Callan Kapush did a whole series of Relient K inspired photography on Flickr, and this is Let It All Out.
Oh, interesting. It's the beach. With a beautiful
I think it's a desert.
Oh, is it a desert? But isn't that water behind them?
I can't tell. It looks like a mountain to me. Maybe it is the beach.
Yeah, I guess it's okay.
It's very pretty.
Yeah, it's either a desert or a beach because behind them the ground is very washed out, so it's hard to tell. I guess it's you know what, I'm going to call it and say it's a desert. So it's but the sand below them looks so wet.
Oh, maybe it is a beach. I don't know. Okay.
So it's a person standing in the sand. The sand around them is very like porous and sort of like fluffed and mounded up. It's not just like flat, and they're like acting like they're caught with, and they're covered in a shawl, in like a sheer sheet, a very, very sheer sheet, and they're like acting as if they're caught in it and they can't quite escape, like it's a spider web and they're trying to push out. It's like some sort of like body movement performance. And then behind them is a very beautiful sunrise. They're kind of shielding their eyes. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very nice. Let's take a picture of that so we can post it later. There you go.
Well, that's all for me.
Nice. Well, then we can get into covers and etc.
Nice. Ooh, and etc.
And etc. There are quite a lot, actually. I mean, I think you kind of... Oh, my gosh. I totally forgot. Because I'm like scrolling through my notes and going to the covers and things, and I had put these screen caps in here and totally forgot. But when I announced that we were going to be doing this episode this week, John Schneck DM'd us and he said, I love that. So he said, always one of my favorite songs.
Nice.
That's what he said. And I said, oh, nice. Do you have anything like specific about the song that you love about it? And he said, there's nothing really specific to share, but it was always so moving to play and sing with the crowd.
Yeah, I imagine that. Yeah, this in a crowd would be like really
I'm sure
beautiful.
I've heard the song live.
Yeah,
unfortunately,
same.
Since, as I kind of implied, the song never matched my personal moods in life, I probably didn't like retain the memory of this song specifically. So, obviously, they played the song at during the mmhmm 10 tour multiple times. So let's watch one of those versions, and nice. That was actually I have a lot of live versions of this. So this is the mmhmm 10 tour, and I'm trying to figure out where it is. It doesn't. It just says it's at a House of Blues on November 1st. It doesn't say what city. So let's hear this. Don't be alone when the world begins to. 'Cause we're so scared. Exactly what we need. And today I don't trust you with the confidence of a man who's never known defeat. Tomorrow morning, what I did, I'll stare at you in disbelief. Oh, and there where it kicks in, it obviously sounds pretty bad. This is a front row video and
metal.
Yeah. So that would be 2014. So I have a 2011, a 2009, both with this supports my theory. In 2009, at least, on these YouTube videos, they played Hatchet and this song.
Okay, there you go.
They didn't separate them.
Yeah.
So I wonder if this really was part of a movement.
Yeah.
That Thiessen had in his head, that maybe because they wanted to conform to expectations of a pop rock, pop punk album, they kind of didn't fully lean into like they would with Forget Not Slow Down. So let's hear a little bit of that. Here's a 2009 And I'll skip ahead a little bit through Hatchet because we'll talk about that someday. But this is at Spirit West Coast. 2009, Relient K at Spirit West Coast. Sadly, I had to make the file smaller because it wasn't uploading. So the quality sucks now. Sorry about that. YouTube is stupid.
Well, Amanda's singing right along there.
Yeah, I didn't say who this is uploaded by, but this is uploaded by Amanda Gayton.
Nice.
June 12th, 2009.
And know that I don't hate you. And know that I don't wanna fight you. And know I'll always love you. But right now I just don't. We've got to let it all out. Rip it out. Don't be.
Yeah, Jessica was laughing at the sing-along in the
I
background
like
there.
it. Hey,
But-
it's cool. They panned over only for just a second, but you saw Schnack on the banjo.
Oh, nice. But yeah, live in 2009, these songs are even more clearly the same song.
Yeah.
Hatchet and
Yeah.
Let It All Out. There was no separation.
Yeah.
Like, at least on the record, there's that slow, soft moment where he kind of, like, holds his breath until the next song goes. You know, this also reminds me, and I meant to write this down in my notes, I forgot, but melodically, structurally, this song is very similar to I Celebrate the Day. I wouldn't say it's like, it's just a similar thing. Very, very different, obviously. The melodies are different, but the melodies are the same. I know it's a contradiction in terms, but you know what I mean? Like, they're different songs, but they're of a same cloth. And especially since, you know, I Celebrate the Day has that lead in with those two carols that actually are part of it leading up. So you have here Hatchet, which leads into Let It All Out, and they're very similar sort of songs. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit more into this 2009 version.
Crying out for consistency. You said I know that this will hurt, but if I don't break your heart, then things will just get worse. If the burden seems too much to bear, remember the end will justify the pain it took to get us there.
I will say, in terms of crowds that are not like, compared to Over It, where in, it wasn't Cincinnati, it was Cleveland, that audience sucked. That audience that was hearing Over It for one of the first times, and they were just like, no, I'm sorry, Marigolds.
I was going to say it was Marigold, yeah, and Cleveland.
That crowd in Cleveland hearing Marigold for one of the first times, they're going, yeah, Marigolds, I'm drunk. Like, at least at West Coast, or Spirit West Coast, obviously these kids aren't drunk, they're chatty, and they're, like, singing along, but they're still,
That's nice.
in a
They're
way,
being
respectful.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of them are going woo in inappropriate moments and stuff, but they clearly want to be there for the music. They're not just drunk people going, Marigold. So, so I guess we can get into covers. And we have, I wrote down this very professional piano cover.
Oh, wow.
Uploaded by Tony Robert Allen. And 1 week ago.
Oh, wow.
I didn't realize that.
Oh, my gosh. Wow.
1 week ago, maybe when we announced it, Tony Robert Allen uploaded this cover.
Let it all out, rip it out, remove it. Don't be alarmed when the wound begins to bleed. 'Cause we're so scared to find out what this life's all about. So scared we're gonna lose it. Not knowing all along, that's exactly what we need. And today I'll trust you with the confidence of a man who's never known defeat. And tomorrow upon hearing what I did, I will stare at you in disbelief. Oh, inconsistent me, crying out for consistency. And you said, I know that this will hurt, but if I don't break your heart, then things will just get worse. If the burden seems too much to bear, remember the end will justify the pain it took to get us there.
That was really, really beautiful.
And it goes on for another 3 minutes, so it's probably just as beautiful.
That was really great.
So again, that's Tony Robert Allen.
And Tony Robert Allen is very dreamy, I might add. Let's just go ahead and hit that subscribe button.
Well, I'm logged in as me on YouTube right now. He's only got 11 subscribers, folks. Tony Robert Allen needs more subscribers.
Yeah.
So let him know. There was a dog outside that just went crazy. It wasn't April. I don't know if the microphones picked it up, but it was like...
I didn't hear it.
Okay. Well,
April's hiding somewhere because she's upset because she heard there's a new puppy in the family, and she's like,
so
I'm
glum.
a puppy.
She's not going over to meet the puppy right now because she's going to be so angry. We need a whole day for April to get used to the puppy. So here's what
like, who are you?
Yeah. So here's what I called a slightly jazzy vocal cover of some sort. This is uploaded by... this is on SoundCloud. Oh my gosh, I do not need a SoundCloud Go Plus subscription. Thank you. This is BMCDEE on SoundCloud. Said, let it all out, Relient, spelled with an A, K. And this is their cover. And I guess I'll skip ahead a little bit.
I always forget to do Reliant spelled with an A in my deep dives.
Yeah, that's okay. That's A-okay.
You just don't want any more like awful reviews where they don't even spell it correctly.
You said, I know that this will hurt, but if I don't break your heart, things will just get worse. If the burden seems too much to bear, remember the end will justify the pain it took to get us there. And I'll let it be known, times I have shown signs of all my weakness, but somewhere in me there is strength.
So it's the instrumentation that I thought of as sounded kind of like soft jazz. It sounded like soft jazz.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really
nice.
nice. I like that kind of idea, and it seems like something that makes sense. If you do a cover of this, you can kind of do a soft jazzy version.
This sounds like a musical episode of a CW show.
It does. Well, it was in Brian Goes to College or whatever that stupid show is called.
This cover.
This cover specifically sounds like a CW
It
thing.
sounds like when
They had that Flash Supergirl crossover, and they were in, like, the dream realm or whatever.
Okay.
I don't particularly care for musical episodes of shows.
Who does?
Right? Like, they always take away from the story. There's always too much emphasis on the singing. Like, I watch The Magicians, and I have a friend who, like, absolutely lives for their musical episodes, and I'm always like, oh.
Well, Bristol House on SoundCloud uploaded this ukulele cover of Let It All Out by Relient K.
I don't break your heart, and things will just get worse. If the burden seems too much to bear, remember the end will justify the pain it took to get us there.
Seems like a challenge to play this on ukulele.
Yeah, I was going to say, I would not think of this as being like a ukulele song, but yeah.
I mean, they definitely
Sounds
did the
nice.
best
Yeah,
they could.
yeah,
with
absolutely.
seems to be a very complex song. Hey,
Yeah.
I tried playing Be Your Man on ukulele, and aside from the fact that we've established that I'm tone deaf when it comes to singing, I could not keep that ukulele in tune all day long. So here's what I wrote, well-produced female cover that's only 90 seconds long. I don't remember
Nice.
any of these. I captured most of these like a week ago. I did this research a long time ago. This is uploaded by, there's a lot of SoundCloud stuff today, but more than usual. RAAS. Oh, and the name Morgan Ross. So Ross is her last name, I suppose. And the channel is just called Ross. And this is Let It All Out, Relient K cover.
Let it all out, get it all out, rip it out, remove it. Don't be alarmed when the wound begins to bleed. 'Cause we're so scared to find out what this life's all about. So scared we're gonna lose it. Not knowing all along, that's exactly what we need. And today I'll trust you with the confidence of a man who's never known defeat. But tomorrow upon hearing what I did, I'll stare at you in disbelief. Oh, inconsistent me, crying out for consistency. And you say to know that this will hurt, but if I don't break your heart, then things will just get worse. If the burden seems too much to bear, remember the end will justify the pain it took to get us there.
Nice. So Race or Ross, she cuts down the 4-minute song to 1:30.
Nice. Yeah, that was really nice.
Yeah, that's really nice. It's really well produced. Do you think that kind of had a Lana Del Rey aspect to her vocal performance?
There's a little too much lightness in there. She didn't quite have the devil in her.
Of course.
But it was very nice. Yeah, there was a little touch of that in there.
And there are a lot of covers this week, so I just let everyone know, like, go out there and check out all the covers. Some of them people try more than they are able to succeed, and I don't want to call anyone out on that stuff, but everyone did a great job. So normally we open cover sections with the cover bot companies and the stuff like that, but instead, String Quartet is not a cover bot company. We've established they're real people. But their release strategy is very coverbot-esque.
Right.
Here is their, and yeah, approaching 5 minutes. Here's their cover of Let It All Out. You would think.
Nice as always.
Oh, sorry. I hit the table. Do you think we could have walked down the aisle to that?
I'm not sure that I'm into this message for walking down the aisle, dear, but...
That's a good point. Well, so I discovered this week, and I don't feel like really giving them too much, like actually playing their video after all.
Okay.
But there's an app, like a startup called mmhmm.
Oh,
like they just began this year. And they are somehow video conference Zoom related.
Gotcha.
There's some sort of like add-on to Zoom and similar apps. I didn't really watch their video.
They sound like the man, and we don't promote the man.
Well, I think it's like one guy, possibly maybe one guy and maybe like a small team.
Still a man.
But, well, it is technically a man. But but I started getting annoyed because when I typed in mmhmm earlier
Right.
to figure some stuff out for finalizing my research, their app was like the second biggest result.
Oh, man,
like,
forget
this
that.
stinks.
No, don't push Relient K down the search engine.
We haven't talked about it, but there's a female pop duo called mmhmm.
Oh, okay.
They only have a couple hundred or a couple thousand Spotify listeners. When I've looked at like monthly listeners, they're called mmhmm.
What about Yeppers?
Yepper. I don't know if there's a band called Yeppers. I'll look that up while I say this. But there's a band called mmhmm, and they're they're like it's like a female duo. But when you type in mmhmm, they don't come up. They're not the top. But if they were, I'd say sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like they I don't know if I can't tell if they named themselves after the Relient K song or if it's just a coincidence. When I type in Yuppers, the top band that comes up is Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Of course, the Yeppers.
A band that I always didn't like, Red Hot Chili Peppers, but I've been trying to like them because they are so entwined with the history of Fishbone, which is one of my favorite bands. And then Scott Aukerman and Adam Scott, where they have the Are You Talking REM to Me and You Talking U2 to Me, their third season was supposed to be about Red Hot Chili Peppers, which surprised everybody and even surprised me because I don't like Anthony Kiedis's rapping. That's the problem. I hate his rapping. But when he sings, it's perfectly fine. It's basically the same as Linkin Park.
Oh, that's who Jeff's dog's named after.
Yes.
I did not know that until now.
He definitely likes Red Hot. My friend Jeff, my best man, he definitely likes Red Hot Chili Peppers more than me. I don't like when Red Hot Chili Peppers rap, but I like enough other stuff that they do. So I've been trying to get more into them. And Scott Aukerman and Adam Scott were going to do a whole season where they review all their albums. And then in the second episode, they just did a big like turn and they changed it to Talking Heads. Like in the middle. And I was like, okay, this makes more sense for their fan base of U2 and REM fans.
Right.
But I was actually like kind of pissed off because like I'm not a Red Hot Chili Peppers fan. But I wanted to go on the journey of listening to them discuss the Red Hot Chili Peppers albums. And they spent their whole first Red Hot Chili Peppers episode apologizing to the fans of their podcast to why Red Hot Chili Peppers was the best decision and why it will be fun to listen to all the band change-ups they've had and all this stuff.
Oh, so people complained.
Well, some people complained and some people didn't. I complained. I felt totally like the rug was pulled out from under me. Right. I was like, it just felt so contemptuous to like, you spent a whole episode apologizing to everyone, like, trust us, Red Hot Chili Peppers, you're going to learn a lot. And second episode, they're like, nah. I'm sure a lot of people complained in the first episode saying we don't want to hear about Red Hot Chili Peppers. And they kowtowed to those people.
Right.
And so I felt let down.
Well, our next season, everybody's going to love this, is going to be about Marilyn Manson, Song by Song Marilyn Manson podcast.
That's a great idea.
Nothing goes hand in hand with Relient K like Marilyn Manson.
That's a fantastic idea. I've been thinking about it, and I'm like, one of the other bands I could go song by song through, because I couldn't really go song by song through MXPX, because they're MXPX, they're a punk band. It's hard to go song by song through a real punk band. Like, sure, you can go song by song through Blink-182 because they're not a real punk band.
Yeah.
But to go through MXPX song by song, that's a little rough. Get Up Kids That's who I could go song by song through. But Jessica and I don't really share any Get Up Kids memories. I've never taken her to see them. I've never played them around her. I can't.
This
really
could be like the format of our old podcast, where instead of me trying to get you to enjoy something and watch/listen to it for the first time, it's the other way around.
Yeah, and then you'll get me to hate the Get Up Kids by the end. Look forward to our Lost Boy episode when we're going to talk about the secret origins of this show. So anyway, there's an app called mmhmm. It's some sort of add-on to Zoom.
Gotcha.
I don't really feel like
I forgot
them.
what we were talking about, so right on.
So there's only a couple of FMVs.
Shipping videos? Any shipping videos?
No shipping videos, which this seems like a shipping video song.
Yeah,
like
it
even
does.
though it is clearly a prayer to God, this is the kind of song that someone can misinterpret and make it about.
Hey, I misinterpreted
a breakup.
it. The people over at punknews.org misinterpreted it.
Oh, I've only got 1%.
Oh.
So anyway, here's an FMV, and it's just like
Atmospheric.
ambient, atmospheric shots of their home, around their home, outside. This is by J Swiss
This is
090.
This is like next
years
gen
ago.
Relient K. This isn't first 4 albums Relient K. All the outside stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Outdoorsy Relient K.
But this is 12 years ago, so this is around the time of...
Oh, that makes sense. Oh,
this is
wait,
just like
yeah.
a couple years after.
Well,
That's
that
a
makes
pretty
sense then. Ooh, creepy.
artistic,
Wow.
artsy, scary shot of the
That was
person.
cursed.
So yeah, this is
I
cute.
like
It's
it.
definitely, it's a 4:3 aspect ratio, 12 years ago. It's nice. There's what I call 2000s emo artwork slideshow, where basically it's like somebody's emo Pinterest. It's like all these little emo-y comics and stuff. These
Oh,
like
right,
big,
those little guys.
big heads
Yeah.
with big eyes. And yeah.
Oh, I remember when that was popular. Remember that?
And hopefully I have enough battery left. I'm down to 1% because here is, and I already posted this to Twitter a couple days ago. I don't know if you saw it because it kind of rocks my world. This is a 27-minute FMV, the only AMV.
Oh my
that I found.
gosh.
27-second. I'm so sorry.
Oh my gosh.
20
Danny. Whoa. I'm like, your phone is not going to last 27 minutes.
No, it's not.
Wow.
27-second. The only full AMV,
Okay.
the only full AMV I found, and this is it right here.
Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness. I did not see this on Twitter. What?
It's
There
Tails.
is a shipping video. What you didn't
Oh,
tell
you're
me.
right. This is technically a shipping video.
Who is this other person?
I don't know this character's name, but
Is it a Sonic thing or
okay,
no?
it's Sonic X. In the 2000s.
Oh my gosh.
In the 2000s, there was a Sonic anime called Sonic X. This little green lady character was original only to this show.
Okay.
I don't know who she is. I never really watched this show because I didn't want to watch the stupid 4Kids dub, so I never did. And I'm sure I could find a subbed version now, but I just have never gotten around to it. But yeah, so apparently it's a shipping video for the little green
Wow.
the little green Sonic X lady and Tails. We can't go until we figure this out. Please, phone, hold up. Sonic X green lady. Let's see. Nope, that didn't help.
You can't just look at like a character, like wiki or something for it?
Nope, because it doesn't like the word lady. Green character. Here, this has gotta work. Okay, this has gotta work. There she is. What is she? She's some sort of plant. She's some sort of she's like a marijuana character. Like, what is she? Here's a tribute to the Sonic X girls I found.
Wow.
That sounds like... And introducing the Sonic X girls. They come out and
Cosmo?
perform before the show.
Yeah, like a Sonic, not Sonic the Hedgehog, but a Sonic X burlesque show.
Well, I was going to say variety, but yeah, burlesque show too. I'm sure that exists somewhere. We went to a Sailor Moon burlesque show a couple of years ago. That was funny.
It was funny.
Oh, was that not family friendly? Should I not have shared that?
It's the
on
end
this
of the podcast. Nobody listens this far in.
That's true.
It's so she's called Cosmo.
Okay.
Sonic X, Cosmo and Tails shipping video, AMV. Now, a shipping video for Supergirl is what got you into watching Supergirl.
Yeah.
Is this going to get you into
No.
watching Sonic?
Female child of a plant-like alien species whose homeworld was destroyed by the villain Metarax? I don't know. I only know Dr. Robotnik.
Who in the years
Eggman.
that follow left Cosmo as the sole survivor of her kind. To thwart the Metarex ambitions for universal domination, Cosmo joins Sonic the Hedgehog and his allies in their war against the... And that's where the preview on DuckDuckGo cuts off. What did Cosmo join forces with Sonic and his allies to fight against? Listen next week to Sadie Hawkins' pod to
But
find
not
out.
next week.
2
the
weeks
week
from
after
now,
that.
when we discuss the seen and heard. Because I'm having a good time.